explain to Jim, it's because there's a room of engineers, and not a bunch of executives. Usually it's hard to get those guys to quiet down before we move on to the presentation. So anyhow, there's a couple of people here from Great Lakes as well, and they know that sometimes I can kind of ramble on, so hopefully I'll keep this short and just stick to the basics. But I'm here to talk about, as Matt said, the Emerging Technologies Committee, which is a new committee that we just started in the last year within AGMA. And as Matt mentioned, the Board of Directors set out a strategic plan that really had four major elements to it, four major areas of focus, including the industry voice, which is to help the AGMA membership and the gear industry overall to understand the breadth of what AGMA does, just beyond not only the technical standards development, but a lot of the other business offerings as well. The education focus brought up membership is looking for more education opportunities for their employees, as well as a global aspect, as the AGMA is truly a global organization with many members that are from the outside of the U.S. And finally, the Emerging Technologies Committee. And that's what we'll talk about a little bit about today. But just overall, the AGMA structure, as far as how the committees and events and operations works, there's the BMEC side, which is the business management side, which is focused on things like putting together the Gear Expo, our annual meetings, the SRN events, some of the education activities and whatnot. And then there's the TDC, which many of you are probably most familiar with, which is a technical division. And that division is really focused on the development of standards and maintenance of those standards information sheets that probably many of you are involved in. The Emerging Technologies Committee is part of the BMEC side of that organization. So although we're focused on emerging technologies, this is not a technical committee in the traditional sense that technical committees are understood to be within the AGMA. Our goal is not about standards development or work on standards. We are looking at things from a different perspective. And I'll explain a little bit about that as we go through here. So the goal of this committee is really about identifying, investigating, and informing the membership about emerging technologies that may impact the gear industry. And this includes things that may or may not turn out to have an impact on the industry. But the idea is, and speaking with Amir, I like some of the way that he described what the Emerging Technology Committee is tasked with doing, is really being more of a reconnaissance unit. Being the eyes and the ears on the ground in the industry, tracking and investigating what's happening with emerging technologies, and basically feeding back that information to the very diverse AGMA membership to keep the membership apprised of what's happening and how it could impact our industry. So although we are not a TDC committee, we will be working with the TDC to keep a liaison relationship so that we can keep in touch and synchronize as far as what this committee discovers through its activities. So here's a conceptual model. So again, this is the coming from the BMEC side, so this is not a systematic model that you might see as an engineer. But essentially what you have is the Emerging Technology Committee here's my little pointer here, is here in this chart. And the idea is that out in industry there are things that are happening. The Emerging Technology Committee is designed to operate as a way to gather information regarding certain technologies that we've identified as emerging and communicating with industry experts or technical advisors that are out in the industry focusing on these technologies, and then serving as a bridge to the very diverse AGMA membership. So if you think about the AGMA, you know, it's a very diverse organization in terms of both the markets that the members serve, where they sit in the supply chain, whether they're suppliers, whether they're gear manufacturers, whether they're end users. Also, as company members, the employees and the people that work at those organizations also serve different roles. Some are engineers, some are executives, some are in sales. And so we really do have a very diverse membership from a demographic point of view. And what we're trying to do is basically take that information and take those events and advancements that are happening out in industry and try to communicate them to this diverse group, and in a way that is easily consumable, that's not highly technical, sort of demystifying some of these things in a way that can be consumed by a lot of different people in different industries with different roles and different backgrounds. On the left side there's 4 boxes, and those represent the 4 main emerging technologies that we're starting with our investigation. And they represent the technical advisory groups that we are beginning to put together. And what we're looking for there is to identify people that are out in the industry that are subject matter specialists or experts in these technologies, and to help interface with the committee in order to advise and inform us of what's happening out in the industry related to these technologies. And one other thing I just wanted to mention is that the Emerging Technology Committee is not a committee that is made up of technical experts. In fact, when we were building the committee, we were looking for people that were both technical and non-technical, so that it would be an initial set of filters to understand how the information was coming from the technical advisory groups, and being able to make sure that it was easily consumable and understood by both people that have some level of technical acumen and some that are not so technical. So that's kind of the goal in how we selected and built the Emerging Technology Committees. So a lot of the work that we've been doing, since this is a new committee and we are doing something new, was to put together a life cycle or a process that we would follow as we went through and evaluated these emerging technologies. There's really 4 steps to it. The first is to identify what areas that we should focus on, what technologies should be investigated. The second is to do that investigation and to work with the technical advisory groups as we put them together to get that information from the industry, understand it, and identify what's important related to the gear industry. The third step is really the informed step, where we're communicating what we find out to the membership of AGMA and the industry in general. And then the last step is about assessing periodically whether or not we consider these technologies to continue to be emerging. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the first 3 steps here. And the first step of identifying the technologies, we looked at this and said, well, how do we define what's an emerging technology? And I think one of the best ways to do so is an explanation that was provided by Jonah Piyush from, he was with Oak Ridge, and did a presentation on additive manufacturing at a recent SRN event. And he described emerging technologies, things that are exciting and unpredictable versus boring and predictable. But really unfortunately, that was only part of the equation because we had to narrow our focus and our scope. And we came up with these three main areas that we're going to be evaluating technologies as we look at them and say, do they really fit the scope of what this committee is doing? And it's really three main elements. One is it's related to gear manufacturing. Two, that it is considered emerging. And three, that there is a reasonable likelihood that practical application of the technology can occur, may occur within the near future. And so there's just a few different points and some questions here that we use as we look to evaluate what technologies we should focus on. So as I showed in the slide with the bridge, there are four main technologies that this committee is focused on evaluating right now. Industrial Internet of Things, IoT, additive manufacturing, new materials, and automation and robotics. I'm not going to get into the details about the specifics of each of these today. I more want to explain to you what the goal and the process of this committee is going to be, and some of the collateral and content that's been generated by the committee, and specifically Mary Ellen, is available, and I'll show you how to access that on the website, and the Emerging Technologies Pavilion that's going to be at your expo this year. So I mentioned the technical advisory groups, and this is really a key element of the investigate phase. And what we're looking to do is put together advisory groups that are comprised of Emerging Technology Committee members, AGMA Technical Division representation, academic members, and then industry representatives, subject matter experts, people that know what's happening in the industry and are closest to these technologies. They may not be involved in the gearing industry today because due to the fact of the emerging state of them, they are advancing or changing. And so we are not only looking to get people that are involved just related to the existing knowledge of gearing, but also people that are coming from the outside, as these technologies may be disruptive and may not currently be well known within the gear industry. But this is the kind of structure of the advisory groups, and the idea of the activities is that these groups are going to be interacting periodically, but we want to cycle the activities frequently as the emerging nature of these technologies means that there's significant change at speed, and so we want to make sure that we are cycling quickly to be able to get the latest information out to the members in the industry. I mentioned earlier about the diversity of the AGMA membership, and this is a stakeholder map that we put together and will be using to identify how we structure the investigation and how we communicate to the target audience. And we really look at it from gear industry suppliers, from manufacturers, end users, but then we also look at these technologies and say, how do they impact the internal operations, the product offerings, or potential customer requirements related to this technology. So for example, if we look at the IoT space, there may be different opportunities or different risks or different impacts that will vary depending upon what your organization does relative to other organizations that are part of the AGMA. They may be more focused on internal operations versus product offerings, or vice versa. And so this map is basically a framework that we'll use to kind of look at and make sure that we're evaluating these technologies from the diverse audience and stakeholders within the industry. So as we move on and talk about how we're going to communicate this information out, we get into the informed phase. And the best place to get more information right now as far as how the activities that have been done to date is there's a section on the AGMA website. If you go to the resources bar there, down near the bottom, and lobbying to move it up higher up the list. But in any case, there's an emerging technology website page there that does talk about and does have information that's been gathered and communicated and links to other information coordinated mainly by Mary Ellen Dorn, who's on the AGMA staff. But this is really the best place to get information today. And as we move forward, we now have a new resource, Rebecca, who's joined the AGMA in the communications role to help to find novel and effective ways of communicating the information that we gather and learn related to these emerging technologies. You know, whether that's short videos, whether that's case studies, whether that's social media activities. So we'll be expanding the communication methods to inform members going forward. The first Emerging Technologies Pavilion is going to be at this year's Gear Expo. There's a map of the expo here, and this is the entrance down here at the bottom, and back in the corner there is where the Emerging Technologies Pavilion is going to be located at the show this week. So if you have a chance, swing by that area, and then there's a few exhibitors there that are exhibiting some of their products and some of the things that we've learned about through this committee activities. And then I just want to take a quick moment to recognize the Emerging Technology Committee members and let you guys see who's involved in that. We basically have 12 committee members, as I mentioned, both some technical, some non-technical, but I'm from Great Lakes Industry, the chair, and Mary Ellen Dorn. Mary Ellen, why don't you raise your hand? She's here in a red jacket. Mary Ellen has been tasked with focusing solely 100% of her time on this committee and its activities. So it's a pretty big investment for the AGMA to really focus on this and really make it a value to the membership. So Mary Ellen Dorn is from the AGMA perspective working on this committee. We have Bill Bennett from Elwood City Forge, Nitin Chapakar from DMG Mori, Michael Sinkamani from Master Power Transmission, Teresa Collin, Klingenberg, Joel Worrell from Born & Co., David Harun, Cup for America, David Hengenbarth from Federal Gear, Will Lee with Lee Gear, and Buzz Maori. Is Buzz here? No. Buzz is not here, but for those of you that have been involved with the TDC in the past, you know Buzz. Buzz is recently retired from leasing and a former TDC chairman. Buzz is part of our committee, as well as Jack Massett from Meritor and Justin Shaw from Around Surface. So how can you get involved? Really, there's two ways at this point. One is if you're interested in participating in the committee, or if you feel as though you have a expertise or have a background in any of these emerging technologies areas, please contact Mary Ellen as we are building these technical advisory groups if you would be interested in being involved within those groups. And then Mary Ellen Dorn, as I mentioned, she's the contact from AGMA, and this is her contact info, and Mary Ellen will probably be spending a lot of time at the Emerging Technologies booth in the next few days, so feel free to approach her with any more questions or you know, we welcome any involvement that you'd like to provide. That's really all I've got. It was just one last thing that I wanted to mention. I try to take the time whenever I get in front of a group of members, and this being, you know, very technical oriented group, one of the things that I would like to recommend to everybody is to get involved in the technical committees. So I'm taking off my Emerging Technologies Committee hat now and putting on my board hat and saying, you know, the history of this organization is founded in these technical standards and the information sheets that the AGMA publishes and maintains. And this has been done, and it is currently done by volunteers that volunteer their time to contribute to these activities and to take these things forward. And one of the things that I found over the years being involved in AGMA is that there are some that are intimidated by the technical committees. They assume that there's technical experts and that the company or that they themselves can't contribute to the committees and that it can be a bit intimidating at times. And I really want to encourage everybody that's not involved in a committee or your organization is not involved in a technical committee to look to get involved. You can join as an observing member, and then as you learn and understand understand how the committees work, you may find that in fact there are some contributions that can be made, and that the perspective that you bring from your organization as a member of AGMA may likely have some something to offer to the committees, a perspective that may be different. And so I would recommend that everybody think about that and realize that it's not, you don't need to be a technical expert to get involved in these committees. And so I encourage you to contact Amir if you're interested, and even just come and observe some committee meetings. There's many WebExes. A lot of this is very low barrier to entry activities to get involved in these technical committees, which are really the foundational activities of the AGMA from its beginning. So that's really all I have. If you have any questions, you know, come and find me. Mary Allen's here. Matt is